Hello everyone, and welcome to the Gifted Gabber's SAT ACT Rundown. I'm Nanad, and today I'm going to give you more insight into how to maximize your child's standardized testing approach. Now, I first wanted to start it off by addressing some of the questions I get from parents and students. Now, they really are quite a big gambit of questions. When should I start preparing? What tests do colleges want? Why is the SAT, ACT important? When's the best time to take them? So on and so forth. So what I wanted to do in this informational presentation is cover all of them. Now, I first wanted to mention the testing formula. Now, what I think the testing formula is, and what colleges do too, is what you need to hit the standardized testing benchmark for colleges. Now, we first begin with the PSAT, the pre-SAT, and really it's just a shortened form of the SAT. What it does to begin with is give the national merit status. Now, this status can be from commended, semifinalist, finalist, so on and so forth. And with this status, you get not only scholarships, but also in state colleges and sort of some other private colleges, you might get some tuition off. Now, that's really a good thing to consider. But mainly for top colleges and Ivy Leagues, this national merit status is, just a benchmark again. They won't give you any tuition off just because you have it. But really, the PSAT is required by many different schools for students to take in the 11th grade. And that is what qualifies you for the national merit status. Now, the next part of the testing formula, and arguably the most important, is the SAT or the ACT. Now, this is a prime standardized test that colleges use to really assess your child's academic prowess. I'm going to go into more detail in the next slide, but this is the most important thing. That's something that parents and students should know. Now, the next part of the testing formula is the SAT subject test. Now, this is essentially a broad area of different tests students can take in different subject areas. Now, that can be in literature, mathematics, chemistry, physics, many of the sciences. And what this subject test does is it gives colleges an understanding of your academic prowess in a specific area. Now, if you're doing computer science, for example, a lot of colleges require computer science majors to take mathematics 2, which is a specific subject test, and, another science, which can be from physics, chemistry, biology, that sort of thing. And so that really depends on your major. But overall, I would really advise students, and college admissions officers would also advise students to take 1 or 2 subject tests just to show that you're proficient and advanced in a certain academic field. And the more aligned it is with your major, the better it's going to be for colleges to see. But going to SAT and ACT, I think what a lot of parents and students really miss out on is the ACT. They always jump at the SAT and think that that's the prime test that colleges want. And while that may be true, the ACT is without a doubt an equal option for colleges to see. If a college sees an SAT test versus an ACT test, they really won't bat an eye to either one of them. But keep in mind that it's a benchmark. What you get on the test is important, right? But once you meet a certain requirement, which again I'll go over, it doesn't matter what score you get. Now, for the more logical thinker, and a person who really handles their time better, enjoys science and sort of that analytical thinking, and more lenient curves. Everybody likes more lenient curves. But for the ACT, if you're a logical thinker and you're an analytical thinker, for science in a sort of a science sense, then that's a test for you. But you should take the SAT first if you're a more abstract thinker and you have a heavy emphasis on analysis, and that's more of literary analysis. You might struggle a little bit with math, so the easier math section in the SAT might help you. But with that comes less lenient curves from what many analysts and SAT experts have been seeing. But with that being said, look at these 2 tests and ask yourself, if you're a student, which test do you think would I score the best on first? And go and take that test first. So for me, that was the SAT, what I thought would be the SAT, but then I realized the ACT sort of works for me better. So I took the SAT a couple of times, then I moved to the ACT, took that a couple of times, and then I picked my best ACT score. And that strategy of moving to a test if you aren't doing as well as you hoped for is a really, really good strategy that I think many students and many parents should consider. So take both tests is what I'm saying. Take both tests a couple of times, 2 to 3 times each, and pick the best score out of the lot. I think that's what's really going to maximize your child's success. Not focusing on the SAT or not focusing on the ACT. And your preparation in taking those tests is really universal. If you prepare for the ACT and you want to move to the SAT, then it's really good and really helpful that you have that preparation beforehand, because moving to the SAT is really not that much different. It's just a bit more syntax, understanding the way of the test. Now for the ACT, it's scored from a range of 1 to 36. Now each section, there's a math section, there's a science section, there's a reading section, there's a grammar section, and each of those sections are sort of scored on a scale from 1 to 36. Now each of those scores are averaged for a total score out of 36. Now for the SAT, there's a math score from 200 to 800, and there's a reading/writing score from 200 to 800, and those are added up to get your score from 1 to 1600. So going into more when I should actually take this test, this is a good graph to sort of see and gauge, what's the best time to take these tests. Now beginning with the pre-SAT, students are advised to take the test in 10th grade, just to sort of see the understanding of the test and sort of get familiar with the test. But the actual test, the actual national merit qualifying test, to see if you can reach that status, that's in the 11th grade. So just to preface, the PSAT in the 11th grade is what qualifies you for the national merit score. So again, I would really encourage students to take the test in the 10th grade, get familiar with it, so they can score the best in the 11th grade test. Now, the next thing is the SAT. Now, on the graph, it says it's good to take the SAT in the 11th and 12th grade, but realistically, I would really advise students to take the test in the 11th grade. Just because in 12th grade, from my experience, students are really, really bogged down with a bunch of college apps to do, supplements to write, so on and so forth. So leaving 12th grade open for colleges is important. Take the test in 11th grade, take the test a couple times, the SAT and ACT, and get familiar with it, and just do your best effort then, just so you can leave time in 12th grade. Now, after you take the SAT, a lot of students take the test in 12th grade, the subject test in 12th grade. And while that may be a good strategy, I would really encourage students to take the subject tests throughout high school. Now, why, you ask? It's just because if you take a course that's related, quite similar to the actual subject test that you're going to take, then it's really important to take the subject test right after you take that course. For example, when I took AP Chemistry, I took my subject test right after I finished the course in 10th grade, just so I can really I had a good familiarity with the sort of coursework and concepts behind chemistry. So when I took the subject test, I really, scored my best because of that. So again, I would advise students to take a course that aligns with the subject test, and then take the subject test right after that course. Now that's why it's sort of an entire high school endeavor, just because depending on when you take the course is dependent on when you take the subject test. So keep that in mind. I would really recommend subject tests to be taken throughout high school. Now, the last thing I really wanted to cover was what scores do top colleges want, and that can be T20s, top 20 colleges, and also Ivy Leagues. So for the PSAT, what colleges want is a national merit qualifying score. And that can be from 1470 plus, but the national merit qualifying score is dependent on what state you're in. So if you live in California, or one of the really top scoring states, then you're really gonna have to score higher in order to get that benchmark and get national merit. Whereas if you're, in one of the lower average scoring states like Wyoming, then you might need a lower score to hit that national merit benchmark. But overall, you aim for a 1470. Now the next thing is the SAT and ACT. For the SAT, I would really shoot for 1520 plus, and for the ACT, a 34 plus. And that being said, I know a lot of parents and students really want to aim for that 1600 or that 36, but realistically, colleges don't really care that much if you get a 34 versus a 36, because again, it's a benchmark. They understand sort of the wavering ability of the test. I know that top students on a good day may get a 35, but on a bad day may get a 34, right? And they understand that. So really shoot for 34, and if you get above that, great. If you just get a 34, don't bother retaking the test. Focus your endeavors on something else. If you get lower, retake it. And that's sort of the strategy I would adopt. If you get a 1520 first try, then great. Stick with that score. Don't try to aim for a 1600 again. Focus your endeavors on your passions, your extracurricular activities, your writing. Just because it'll be sort of a fruitless endeavor if you shoot for a 1600. That's just realistic for colleges. And this is for Ivy Leagues, top colleges. It's pretty much for many different colleges. Now, the last thing is subject tests. So really the Math 2 subject test is a universal test. This is what I would recommend. This test is what I would recommend for pretty much any major. If you're a literature major, a computer science major, bio major, so on and so forth. So Math 2 is pretty universal. And what I would recommend is a 780 plus. And realistically, that's not too hard to achieve if students put in their best effort, they prepare, they sort of take many practice tests. That's what I would recommend. Now for a biology, chemistry, physics, literature test, I would really aim for a 750 plus. So with that being said, that's sort of the whole presentation and my perspective and college admissions officers' perspective on standardized testing in general for colleges. Now, if you have any questions, please shoot us an email at info@giftedgabber.com. And if you really want the slide deck, it's really informative and something really good to look at. If you have any questions or any sort of doubts, please email us again at info@giftedgabber.com. With that being said, please enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much for listening.